Storage, where data lives. SQL, NoSQL, and object storage, the building blocks every system designer must master, especially when AI agents are making these choices for you. Imagine this. Your AI coding agent just scaffolded an entire backend and picked MongoDB without enabling transactions. No ACID guarantees. A partial write fails, and money just disappears. AI agents are incredibly fast, but without the right context, they make expensive storage mistakes. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to guide them, when to use SQL, when NoSQL actually makes sense, and when object storage is the only sane choice. There are three fundamental categories of storage that appear in virtually every production system. First, relational databases, or SQL. These store structured data with relationships, transactions, and arbitrary queries. They're your source of truth for data where correctness matters. Second, NoSQL databases. This is a broad family. Document databases like MongoDB offer flexible schemas and rich queries. Key value and wide column stores like DynamoDB and Cassandra optimize for extreme write throughput on known access patterns. Third, object storage. Services like S3 and Google Cloud Storage provide cheap, durable, and effectively unlimited storage for binary files, images, videos, backups, and AI model artifacts. Here's the key insight. AI agents will generate database code readily, but they make specific, consistent choices that may not match your needs. They usually default to PostgreSQL for everything, store file bytes in the database instead of object storage, and rarely recommend NoSQL unless you explicitly ask. Understanding these three categories and when each applies is what allows you to set the right constraints before prompting. The defining feature of relational databases is ACID compliance, a set of 4 guarantees that make them the default choice for any data where correctness matters more than raw speed. Atomicity means all operations in a transaction succeed, or none of them do. If you're transferring money between 2 accounts, the debit and credit either both happen or neither does. A server crash mid-transfer leaves both accounts untouched. Consistency means every write moves the database from one valid state to another, honoring all constraints like foreign keys and not null checks. If account A has $100 and you try to debit $200, the constraint rejects the write and the database stays valid. Isolation means concurrent transactions don't interfere with each other. 2 simultaneous transfers from the same account can't both read the same balance, spend it twice, and corrupt the total. Each transaction sees its own consistent snapshot. Durability means once a transaction commits, it survives crashes. The data is written to the write-ahead log on disk before the commit is confirmed. After transfer successful appears, a power outage won't undo it. PostgreSQL implements the isolation guarantee through a mechanism called MVCC, or multi-version concurrency control. Instead of locking rows when someone reads them, the database retains multiple historical versions of each row. Here's how it works. When a transaction starts, it receives a consistent snapshot of the database as it existed at that moment. It reads from that snapshot for its entire lifetime, even while other transactions are writing new versions of the same rows. So in this diagram, transaction A starts reading and gets a snapshot at time t1. Meanwhile, transaction B comes along and updates the same row, creating a new version. But transaction A still sees the original version from its snapshot. The 2 transactions don't interfere with each other. The benefits are significant. Readers never block writers. Writers never block readers. And the system handles high-concurrency workloads efficiently without the lock contention you'd see in a naive locking approach. This is why PostgreSQL performs so well under concurrent load compared to systems that use traditional row-level locking. Both PostgreSQL and MySQL are mature, production-proven relational databases. But in practice, most new projects should start with PostgreSQL. The industry has largely converged on this recommendation, and here's why. For concurrency, PostgreSQL uses MVCC, where readers never block writers. MySQL uses gap locking under its default isolation level, which creates more contention under heavy concurrent writes. For index types, PostgreSQL supports btree, gin, gist, BRIN, and partial indexes, giving you many ways to optimize different query patterns. MySQL only offers btree and full-text indexes. For JSON support, PostgreSQL has native JSONB, which is binary indexable and queryable with operators. MySQL's JSON type is text-based and less efficient to query. For advanced features, PostgreSQL offers arrays, ranges, PostGS for geospatial data, and pgvector for AI embeddings. MySQL has a simpler type system with fewer built-in extensions. The practical rule: start with PostgreSQL. Its richer feature set, better MVCC implementation, and support for pgvector, which lets you run vector similarity search in the same database as your relational data, make it the correct default in 2026. Only switch to MySQL if you're extending an existing MySQL system. An index is a separate data structure the database maintains alongside your table to make specific queries faster. Without an index, finding a user by email means reading every row in the user's table, a full table scan in O of n time. With a B-tree index on the email column, the database jumps directly to the matching row in O of log n time. For 1,000,000 rows, that's checking about 20 records instead of 1,000,000. On the left, the full table scan checks every row to find the match. On the right, with the B-tree index, the query performs a logarithmic lookup and jumps directly to the result. Indexes come at a cost. Every insert, update, or delete must also update the index. Read-heavy tables benefit greatly. Write-heavy tables pay higher overhead. Here's the most common AI-generated mistake. AI agents create foreign key columns like user ID, but omit the index on them. Without that index, PostgreSQL performs a full table scan on every query that filters by that column. Always add indexes on every foreign key column and every column used in where or order by clauses. NoSQL databases, which stands for not only SQL, trade the relational model's query flexibility for horizontal scalability and predictable low latency. The key mechanism is partitioning. A partition key determines which node holds each record. The database hashes the partition key value and routes the record to the appropriate node. Add more nodes, get more partitions, and write capacity grows proportionally. There's no single primary node bottleneck. The strengths: linear write scaling, predictable low latency lookups by key, and flexible schemas without alter table operations. But the trade-offs are equally significant. No joins, so related data requires denormalization or multiple queries. Weaker cross-partition consistency, meaning operations spanning multiple partitions lack the ACID guarantees you get with a single SQL transaction. And new access patterns require new indexes or table redesigns. Here's the critical insight AI agents get wrong. With SQL, you design the schema first and write queries later. With NoSQL, you invert this. You must define every query before designing the model. AI agents apply relational thinking to NoSQL, normalizing first and querying later. Before prompting an AI agent to generate NoSQL code, write out every query your application needs. The two dominant NoSQL databases for extreme write scale take fundamentally different approaches. DynamoDB is fully managed by AWS. You provision capacity, AWS handles scaling, replication, and failover. Zero operational overhead. It's eventually consistent by default, but you can request strong consistency per read. The trade-off is high vendor lock-in with a proprietary API. Cassandra is open source and self-managed. You own the cluster and can run it on any cloud with tunable consistency from one to all. The trade-off is significant operational burden, node management, repairs, and data rebalancing. A common DynamoDB pattern for e-commerce uses a composite key. The partition key is user, followed by the user ID, and the sort key is order, followed by the timestamp. This co-locates all orders for a user on one partition, returning them chronologically with a single query. But partition key selection is the most important design decision. If you choose a field with few unique values, like a status field with only active or inactive, most writes land on the same nodes. That's the hot partition problem, and it kills horizontal scaling entirely. Always choose high cardinality fields as partition keys. MongoDB occupies a distinct position in the NoSQL landscape. While DynamoDB and Cassandra optimize for predictable key-based access at extreme write scale, MongoDB optimizes for developer flexibility and query richness. It stores data as BSON documents, which is binary JSON. These are field value pairs that support nested objects, arrays, and typed fields. Documents live in collections with no enforced schema. Two documents in the same collection can have completely different fields. The document model maps directly to the objects in your application code, eliminating the impedance mismatch between object-oriented code and relational tables. For horizontal scale, MongoDB uses a query router called Mongos that distributes writes across shards using a shard key you choose. Each shard is itself a 3-node replica set for high availability. MongoDB gives you 3 key capabilities. First, flexible documents with nested objects, arrays, and polymorphic schemas. Second, rich queries through an aggregation pipeline, full-text search, and geospatial queries. Third, multi-document ACID transactions since version 4.0. But there are important constraints. Documents have a 16 megabyte size limit, so you must avoid unbounded arrays. Use references in a separate collection instead. And shard key selection is permanent and consequential. A monotonically increasing key, like a timestamp, causes a hot shard where all inserts land on one node. Use hashed sharding or compound keys for write-heavy collections. Object storage manages data as self-contained blobs, images, videos, audio files, database backups, and AI model weights. It's the cheapest, most durable, and most scalable way to store files. The canonical upload pattern uses presigned URLs. The client requests an upload URL from your backend. Your backend generates a time-limited presigned URL. The client uploads directly to object storage, bypassing the application server entirely. The file is then served to end users through a CDN. The numbers are compelling. S3 costs about 2.3 cents per gigabyte per month. A 1 terabyte dataset costs about $23 per month. Durability is 11 nines. You're statistically unlikely to ever lose an object due to hardware failure. And scale is effectively unlimited, growing automatically without provisioning. S3 now offers strong read-after-write consistency within a region. A file you just uploaded is immediately readable. Cross-region replication remains asynchronous and may lag by seconds to minutes. Beginners often confuse 3 types of cloud storage. They solve fundamentally different problems. Object storage, like S3 and Google Cloud Storage, manages data as key-value blobs accessed via HTTP API. It's best for images, videos, backups, and model artifacts. Objects are immutable, meaning you replace the whole object to make changes. It's the cheapest option at about 2 to 3 cents per gigabyte per month. Block storage, like AWS EBS and GCE Persistent Disk, provides raw disk volumes mounted to a virtual machine. It's what databases actually run on. You get fully mutable, byte-level reads and writes, just like a local hard drive. But it's the most expensive at 8 to 10 cents per gigabyte per month. File storage, like AWS EFS and NFS, provides a shared file system mounted over the network. Multiple servers can read and write to the same files simultaneously. It's fully mutable and sits at a mid-range price point. The key distinction: object storage is for files your application serves or archives. Block storage is for database volumes and operating system disks. File storage is for shared file systems when multiple servers need access to the same data. Use each for what it's designed for. One of the most common mistakes AI agents make is storing binary file bytes directly in the database as blob columns. This is the database blob anti-pattern. In the anti-pattern, the client uploads a file to your app server. The app server streams those bytes into a blob column in PostgreSQL, and then every time someone wants to download that file, it flows back through the app server and out of the database. This causes serious production problems. The database swells in size, which affects backup times, restore times, and the amount of RAM needed for the buffer cache. Files cannot be served through a CDN because they're trapped behind the database. And every file download passes through both your application server and your database, making both a bottleneck. The correct pattern is straightforward. Store the file bytes in object storage like S3. The client uploads directly to S3 using a pre-signed URL. Then store only the object key, a short string like uploads users42 avatar.jpg in the database column. The database row stays small. The file gets served directly from S3 through a CDN without touching your application server at all. Remember, always store file bytes in object storage and only the object key in the database column. How do you choose the right storage for each piece of data? Start with the shape of your data and access patterns. Each question leads to the right storage category. Is it a binary file like an image, video, backup, or model weight? Use object storage, S3 or GCS. Store only the object key in your database. Does it need complex queries, joins, group by, or strict ACID transactions? Use PostgreSQL. It handles the vast majority of workloads correctly. Is the schema evolving fast, the data hierarchical, or do you need rich queries without the rigidity of SQL? Use MongoDB. Its flexible document model lets you iterate quickly. Do you need extreme horizontal write scale with fixed, known access patterns? Use DynamoDB or Cassandra for key value and wide column workloads. Most production systems use multiple storage types together. This is called polyglot persistence. Your application might store user accounts and orders in PostgreSQL, product catalogs in MongoDB, session data in DynamoDB, and uploaded images in S3. 2 rules to follow. Start with PostgreSQL as your default for structured data, and add object storage from day one for any application that handles file uploads. Introduce NoSQL only for specific high-throughput services where the access patterns are known and simple. AI agents make consistent, predictable storage decisions unless you constrain them up front. Here are the most common mistakes and what to specify instead. First, AI recommends PostgreSQL for everything, including file storage. It generates blob columns that bloat the database. Specify, store uploads in S3, save only the object key in PostgreSQL. Second, AI never recommends NoSQL or MongoDB unless asked. It misses cases where DynamoDB fits sessions and leaderboards, or where MongoDB's flexible model beats forcing a relational schema. Specify the storage type explicitly. Third, AI opens a new database connection per request, exhausting PostgreSQL's default limit of 100 connections. Specify, use a connection pool like pgbouncer or your ORM's built-in pool. Fourth, AI creates foreign keys but omits indexes on them, causing full table scans on joins. Specify, index every foreign key column. Fifth, AI wraps single writes in transactions but not multi-step writes, leaving data inconsistent when one step fails. Specify, wrap multi-table operations in explicit transactions. Sixth, AI uses JSONB columns as a flexible escape hatch, but JSONB queries don't use standard B-tree indexes. Specify, use relational columns for any field you filter or sort by. Let's bring it all together. Most production systems combine multiple storage types, each optimized for its workload. PostgreSQL is your default for structured data, transactions, and complex queries. Constrain AI to index all foreign keys, use connection pooling, and wrap multi-table writes in transactions. MongoDB handles flexible schemas, hierarchical data, and rapid iteration. Specify what to embed versus reference, and choose shard keys carefully. DynamoDB or Cassandra handles high-throughput key-value lookups at extreme write scale. Specify all access patterns up front and define partition keys explicitly. S3 or Google Cloud Storage handles binary files. Store only the object key in the database. Use presigned URLs and serve via CDN. The storage decision is one of the hardest to reverse. Migrating from SQL to NoSQL or extracting file bytes from blob columns into S3 requires data migration, service changes, and often downtime. Set the storage architecture before you prompt, and the AI will generate code that fits the system you actually need. Choose storage by access pattern. Start with PostgreSQL for most workloads, add NoSQL only for specific access patterns, and never store binary blobs in a database. Guide your AI agent with these trade-offs, and it can pick the right store for you. If this helped, subscribe for more system design content in the AI coding era. For more details, visit wisebuilder.dev.